Greetings, YouTube. The doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And today we are going old school. I picked myself up a PDF digital copy of Dungeon Module G1 Steading of the Hill Giant Chief. This is the first TSR adventure published in 1978. Here it is right here by Gary Gygax. There are actually 6 different, and we're going to go over all of these in separate videos, but there were 6 different adventures published in 1978. This is the first of the giant ones, and then there were the 3 Underdark ones. I'm doing that in quotation marks. They're Underdark, but they were Descent to Depths, the Shrine of Kuatoa, and the Vault of the Drow. So this one starts the first off for our series in the giant modules. And these were called modules back then. I've been playing for a long time. I've been playing since 1979. I remember buying this in 1980. There was a different cover on these at the time because they did these in kind of this monochrome color back then. So this one was like orange and white tones with some black in it. The Frost Giant one, it was like blue and white and black tones. And then the Fire Giant one is like red and white and black tones. So then they colored them. So we got different. So I had the colored versions of them that had all the different colors on the color wheel, I guess you would say. So let's talk about this a little bit. This is like I said, the first one. We've got a very iconic picture here of, this is probably Nasenra, who is the chief of the Hill Giants, and this is probably a party of adventurers that has been set to take him out. There they all are fighting him. And so let's get into it. Module contains background information, referee notes. So at that time, it was called referees, not GMs or game masters or dungeon masters. 2 levels of map. And remember, the Dungeon Master's Guide didn't actually come out until a year after this. So when this book came out, when this adventure came out, the Monster Manual had already been published, and that was the first book. And then the Player's Handbook came out the same year, and then after that, the Dungeon Master's Guide came out. So they were referees. 2 levels of maps and exploration matrix keys, which are the guides to the maps. It provides a complete module for play of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons and can be used alone or as the first of a 3-part expedition adventure, which also employs G2, Glacial Rift of the Frost Giant Jarl, and Dungeon Module G3, Hall of the Fire Giant King. We've got our obligatory little picture of a wizard there, TSR Games, with the address for TSR Games, official D&D tournament module used at Origins 1978. Here's the first map. Each square was 10 feet. So this is a big map, and they used to make these maps really big. And it looks like it was made on a piece of graph paper because it probably was made on a piece of graph paper. Gary Gygax was big on graph paper, and he kind of, in the earlier iterations of Dungeons & Dragons, before Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, from 1973 until this point, they talked a lot about how to make maps on graph paper, because graph paper was more or less readily available. I remember buying tablets of graph paper at like the dime store. If you're older, you know what a dime store is. So we've got the first level is essentially the fort, or the steading. Steading meaning fort of the Hill Giant Chief. We've got doors, double doors, secret doors, stairs up, stairs down. This was the universal for stairs down and the universal for stairs up. Stairs down and stairs up, and then a fireplace. And of course, this is a road because it says road. So we get our picture here again. These covers here on the modules were not stapled to the booklet. It was like a hard cardboard piece that came off. The outside had a picture on the front and the back, and the inside of that hard fold out had the maps on it. So this would have been on the inside cover of the map, and the second level of this adventure would have been on the inside cover of the back. And then you pulled that off, and you got this. So this was the first page of the adventure itself on the booklet, and you got the same picture with the same obligatory little intro and the things. Okay, so a couple of things I want to talk about here with this. The background, so he always gave a short background of the adventures. This is pretty simple, and there's a lot. He was very much into allowing the person who was running the game to expand and expound on what he was saying. But in this one, the giants have been raiding lands of men in large bands, with giants of different sorts in these marauding groups. Death and destruction, blah, blah, blah. So there is a group of adventurers that are brought forth in front of some kind of ruler. Party of the bravest and most powerful adventurers has been assembled and given the charge to punish the miscreant giants. These adventurers must deliver a sharp check, deal a lesson to the clan of hill giants nearby, or else return and put their heads upon a block for the headman's axe! Exclamation point. And that doesn't necessarily need to be the way it was. You could have made whatever you want up. But they've been fully equipped, and each member of the party is likewise been given the finest horse available. Guides are available. And you've been given a map showing exactly where the timber fortress of the chief of the hill giants is. And then he goes in to talk about the chief, who is named Nazenra, who is a grossly fat and thoroughly despicable creature, sly and vicious, loving ambush and backstabbing. So the party has been cautioned to expect. So this is the twist. The story is the party is being hired to go take care of this threat of giants that's been attacking this king, prince, duke, count, whatever you want to call it, the lands of this person. But there is a twist to this story. There is some unexpected secret force, some motivational power behind this unusual banding of different races of giants. So that's not known to the party up front. It's only known to the dungeon master. But they will find clues to this as they go through this adventure. So finally, the party has been instructed to keep any and all loot. They are to follow any clues discovered if such point towards the sinister hand suspected to guide the rising. So possibly this ruler could be telling the party that they've never seen giants get together like this before, and it's strange that multiple kinds of giants, and there are multiple kinds of giants in this adventure, that it's strange to have seen them get together. And the ruler, the king, the prince, the duke, the count, whoever, suspects that something is behind this, and they're to look out for clues of that. And there are clues in here of that. So some relic of great evil might be at hand. Who knows? All right, so they give some administrative rules here as to what kind of party should be taking this on, as far as like level range of the group that should be doing this. The last sentence is probably the most important one. The first sentence to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but the optimum mix for a group is 9 characters of various classes with an average experience level of at least the 9th, and each should have 2 to 3 magic items. So that's the base for this, in accordance with the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons and Dungeons & Dragons rules that were out at the time. So the only Advanced Dungeons & Dragons rules that were out at the time that this happened were the Monster Manual, and I am not sure if the Player's Handbook was even out at this time. It may have come out at the same time. So those two things I think were out, and that was it. The Dungeon Master's Guide was not out at the time. So the party has safely arrived at a spot near the giant stronghold, a small cave, well hidden, where they can be assured of being undetected. So they've got a forward operating base, a FOB, for the party to go to in case they go in and they need to leave. And I have played this many times, and parties that I have been in or parties that I have run this for have all had to run away because this is a very tough adventure. So they come back to this cave to hide out, and it's a place where they can rest and re-equip and things like that. So, and the map that they get warns them of 2 giants. Notes for the Dungeon Master. So here we've got a little bit of a change. Here it says referee, and here it says Dungeon Master. So there is considerable information, blah, blah, blah. If time permits, the giants will organize traps, ambushes, and last-ditch defenses against continuing forays into their stronghold. One thing I want to clue in on here is that there are sufficient supplies there for several weeks' stay, implying that because of the rules of healing, which were very harsh in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, that you would have to actually assault this over a period of weeks to a month or more. So that's what the cave is for. And each time they return to the base camp, they may receive experience points, benefits, if any, accruing them because of the previous adventure. So you accrued experience points for doing certain things, getting gold and treasure. You got experience points for treasure and for defeating enemies. So you could come back, and it was assumed you were going to come back several times to this place to do that. Okay. So they talk about the works of the fort itself and what it's made out of and its dimensions and all that. And then this is the first time that we see an instance of a giant's bag. And this is something that has been around in Dungeons & Dragons for a very long time. So it is possible. There will be numerous occasions when bags and chests will be searched by the party. The contents of these containers may be determined. And then they give a 5 four-sided die, and you roll on this table. And you can get all kinds of different things in the bags. And they've got a picture of a hill giant here hanging something up on a like a bag or a satchel on a hook or a post. And then it looks like somebody's trying to hide behind a fur. Then they get into the rooms here, and with most of Gary Gygax's adventures, there was a wandering monster table that happened. So encounter is a 1 in 10 chance, 1 on a D10, and he doesn't really say when these happen. It just says 1 in 10. So it's up to you. Great Hall to 11 is a 1 in 8 chance, and the Eastern section is a 1 in 12 chance. Up to the game master, dungeon master, referee on how often that happens or the frequency. So things I want to point out on the first level are this is the instance of the first potions in an adventure: extra healing, hill giant control, healing, and poison. Room number 6 has a +3 magical shield in it. This is the first instance of a magic item in an adventure by TSR. But also they talk about detect magic here. Room number 10A. So we go through the whole shebang through, you come into 1. There's hill giants in 1. There's hill giants in 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all over the place. And you finally make it to room 10. And as you go to room 10, there is something there's a clue in room 10. And remember I said there was a sinister hand guiding the actions, a secret force. Well, this is the first time you come into that. And inside there is a tube, and it's got a Y on it, and there are instructions or a scroll written in Giantish and signed Eklabdra, and they don't really say who that is. I know who it is, but they don't say who it is. Also in the tube are plans for the Steading, so it's a map of the whole thing, but it only shows the first level. That's it. So the players get this, and they're like, who is this Eklabda, and why do they have this plan? and it talks about raids and things like that. So instructions for the next raid and plans for the hall itself. So then, if we get into room 11, that's where we get to the main area where we have Chief Nazenra and his wife, and they talk about how they fight as a giant that is a level higher than them. And then we have a sub-chief. Now, in this room also are a cloud giant and 3 stone giants. Now, I have in my notes written here, why are these giants here? And that could be a question that the players also ask themselves. Why I'm here at the fort of the hill giant chief. Why is there a cloud giant and some stone giants here? So that should get some questions in the minds of the players. There are 22. So we have the chief, his wife, the sub-chief, a cloud giant, 3 stone giants, 22 hill giants, 8 ogres, and a cave bear in this room. That is a lot. That is a lot. That's a very heavy encounter, which is going to be very hard. The players just walk into this room, they're going to get creamed. So they have to be very innovative, and I've had players that are very innovative about this. And earlier in this adventure, Gary Gygax talks about, well, it's a big wood structure. What would happen if the players were to set it on fire? So, and then we've got more rooms here where there's a lot of rooms in here with a lot of mundane stuff. And Gary Gygax loved to list out all the mundane stuff. Rugs and coffers and chests and hides and helmets and shields and spears and clubs and axes and everything else. So that's all here. Players can grab it. They can take it back, if they can get it. Spears, shields, clubs, axes are all abundant here in the weapons room. 4 great swords. And then there is a hammer. That's a +2 war hammer. And another one that has a magic mouth on it that speaks when a dwarf picks it up. And then we have the main chamber, which again has another cloud giant and 3 stone giants in here. So why are they in here? And then we get our first instance of a giant slaying sword. And this is an intelligent sword, which is neutral good. And it detects enemies. It has no other powers, but it's +2 in general and +4 versus any sort of giant. So, it speaks Hillstone and Frost Giant languages in addition to the common tongue. So it will speak to you. It's got intelligence, ego, all that stuff. So this would be the first instance where players find that as well in a TSR published module. Then if we get to the kitchen, there's some giantesses. We got a picture of the giantesses in here cooking dinner, and we also get a picture of the orc slaves. Now, orcs looked to Gary Gygax, not sure why he did this, but orcs to Gary Gygax had pig noses and tusks. They look like boars. And the orcs in this are the slaves of the hill giants. And so here's one getting angry, and she's about ready to bop him on the head because maybe he spilled something. And so we've got that in here. And again, we've got another listing of a lot of common items. Several tables, benches, a stool or 2, cooking items and baking pots, kettles, blah, blah, blah. And there's 29 orc slaves about the place and 5 giantesses. We've got the kitchen workroom. Again, more lists of stuff. We've got the servants' quarters, more giantesses, and a handsome giant warrior. We've got the orc slave quarters. Now, what's interesting about this is they will happily aid a party which will spare their lives and set them free. These orcs know about a rebellion in the dungeons. So there is that, a rebellion in the dungeons, and they'll tell the party about this rebellion that's in the lower level, and they might actually be able to tell them where the stairs are that go down. On this level, there are 2 sets of stairs that go down. Then we got the ogre quarters. There is a potion of storm giant strength in here, and a cursed item. So this is one of the first cursed items ever, the delusion potion. Then we've got the pen of dire wolves, and then several barracks rooms. So all in all, on level 1, there are 54 hill giants. That is a lot. If we go and we look at a hill giant is a challenge rating 5 and 5e. And if you go over to Xanthar's guide in encounter building, it will tell you that a challenge rating 5 creature is supposedly equal to a 12th level character. And there are 55 of them. So this is where if you had 20th level characters, I mean, the 20th level characters would just be able to wipe these guys out. So, but hill giants have an armor class of 13, 105 hit points. They do 18 damage on average when hitting with their great club. They make 2 attacks, so they could do 36 points of damage around. They have a possibility of doing that. They can do more damage if they throw rocks. So all in all, plus there are 2 cave bears, 2 cloud giants, 6 stone giants. There are 13 ogres and 14 dire wolves, all on level 1. Lots to do. So if the alert goes up, party's going to have a lot of hard time with this. So they got to do some sneaking. There's a lot of sneaking that has to happen here. All right, level 2. Level 2. So again, this is a cave, and we've got the map for this level right here. So it is part dungeon, and it is part cave. And Gary Gygax did that on purpose because the rebellion of the orcs are holed up. The rebellious orcs are holed up in part of the cave. And then there are some other creatures, and there is a passage here in room 23 that goes off into another part of this cavernous network. The concept of the Underdark hadn't really come into play yet, so there's questions about that. So the players come in. There's a marshalling area. There's the chamber of the keeper, who is that's the hill giant that controls this. He's got some carnivorous apes, and then this level is mainly housed with bugbears. And the bugbears are like the prison guards. And they have prisoners on this level, and they have orc slaves on this level, and then they also have rebel orcs. There's some troglodytes on this, and then there's like a garbage cave that has a bunch of carrion crawlers. So in cell block, in room 3, we have some cell blocks, and we get some prisoners. So we have a human merchant who's insane. We've got an engineer who the hill giants are using to help them excavate new areas of the dungeon. We've got an elf fighter magic user who will serve the party if they're good for a year without pay if they rescue him. We've got some skeletons, and then we've got captured orc rebels who will tell the party, they will join the party, and they will help the party out, and they'll take them to the cave where the rest of the orc rebels are. Then we've got the bugbear complex. We've got the slave quarters, and there's a whole bunch of unarmed orcs in here that are just kind of hanging out. Slave quarters, we've got more bugbears here, and more orcs, just tons of orcs. I mean, there's like over 100 orcs, well over 100 orcs in here. We've got the torture chamber, and we've got the armory and smithy, and in here are a couple of fire giants. So again, the party could ask, why are fire giants here? Then there are 7 dwarves chained in here that are forced to do labor, and you could flesh these dwarves out to say, why are the dwarves here? Obviously, they're being forced to work, and where did they come from? One of them is actually an 8th level fighter that's got a really high strength. 1829 strength was a high strength back then. So that could be interesting to the party. There is a very strange temple in here. Gary Gygax does not actually say who this temple is dedicated to. It has this kind of almost Cthulhu feel to it. The second cursed item is down here, which is a Scarab of Insanity. And then 19 is the cavern where the rebel orcs are. and so they can give you some kind of information about the rest of the complex. And so I have a question written down here. How long have the orcs been here? How long ago did they rebel? All that kind of thing. They are trading with troglodytes that are trapped here between the orcs and the lizards. I guess they're not trapped by the orcs because it says up here that the orcs are trading with them. They have an uneasy truce with the troglodytes. So how did the troglodytes get here? How long have they been here? Where did they come from? Because these obviously don't live above ground. And then we've got a mated pair of subterranean large lizards who have chosen to raise their young here. So they're here. Where did they come from? How long have they been here? And obviously, because these are subterranean lizards, they don't live on the surface, so they're coming from somewhere. And then we've got this partially cleared passage to a cistern. So that's where the water is coming from. And we've got the cavern of the carrion crawlers, which is right here, number 23. And again, the carrion crawlers are coming out of a sinkhole at the back that has a tunnel that goes out and into the rest of the complex. The rest of this underground world, which we don't know very much about, that could be fleshed out later. And then we've got a storage room. We've got this wine cellar, which has it has a barrel of wine. It's got the door to this room is also padlocked. In addition to several large casks, 11 big barrels, and some various kegs, there are 13 tons, T-U-N-S, 5-gallon, of exceptional wine stored here. Each has a bung seal with a blob of black wax impressed with a death's head. What does that mean? If the wine is tasted, it is 75% probable that the taster will continue to quaff it until in a drunken stupor. So is it magical wine? Is it just so good that they have to drink it? It is property of the creatures masterminding the attacks by the giant, a gift to the chief for his good services, but the party can at best guess at that fact. The wine is black, has a slight earthy smell, and tastes like no other such drink. So very strange that they've got this here. You know, this is a little area where the players can spend some time trying to figure this one out. And then after that, we've got some more stone giants in here. They're quartered in here. They follow this leader that's in the Great Hall. Why are the stone giants here again? And then we've got some empty chambers. There are some manticores in this prison cell that Nasenra has that he has captured and kept here. And then we've got the minor treasure room, the secret room, and the major treasure room, which has a whole bunch of stuff. 23,840 gold, 4,139 platinum pieces, a lot. 41 100 gold piece gems. That's 41,000 gold pieces of gems. Just tons and tons and tons of stuff. So we've got this map. So in addition, there are 3 empty and broken boxes, and in the southeast corner, what appears to be a broken barrel. The latter, which is the barrel, an illusion, for it is actually well made, and a white and watertight cask, which contains a map showing the glacial rift of the frost giant Jarl, and an obsidian box. And in the box is a chain of weird black metal and instructions written in Hill Giant on a sheet of human skin. And then the instructions show that the chain is a magical device, which is to be looped in a figure 8. So it's a pretty big chain. Thus shaped, it will transport up to 6 persons in each circle of the figure 8 to a glacial rift if one of their number holds the map. So what happens if there's more than 6? So I guess, will it transport them back? It doesn't say. Then it says there's some yellow mold, and if they search through this, there's some magic arrows, a +3 magic sphere, and 2 flaming swords, which look like they're intelligent as well. Gary Gygax loved his intelligent swords. One of the other things in this is in this cavern of the carrion crawlers, there is treasure in the place, but it takes 3 persons to search a 10-foot by 10-foot square. Remember, each one of the squares on these maps are 10 feet in one turn. And then after they search it, you roll on this random table And this random table could just punch out lots of really good magic items. I mean, you could get a ring or a wand or a rod or a staff. I mean, it's up to the DM. Whenever I've run this, I like to just put random stuff in here and then roll on the table and put it in there. And Gary Gygax always liked all the random stuff too. So lots of treasure in the last room. Here again, here is the map. The treasure room is right here in 33. Where does this go? How did they get this magical transport device that transports them to the frost giant Jarl? Why are the hill giants having contact with the frost giants? Why are there cloud giants here? Why are there stone giants here? Who is this Eklavda? Where did this wine come from? There's lots of questions that are in this that open the party up to the next adventure. And then, we got a picture of the Steading. This is the back cover of that fold-out that I said. And typically on these, they listed out some of the other products that TSR made. So we've got Dungeon Geomorphs. These all came out before this. The Monster and Treasure Assortments, these all came out before this. These were kind of like random tables of things that Gary Gygax liked to put out. D&D character record sheets, so character sheets, outdoor geomorphs. So these all, and you can see how much these were. This was $4.49 back in 1978. So I remember going and buying these at the store, like the dime store or whatever. So TSR Hobbies publishes a complete line of fantasy, science fiction, and historical games and rules. A complete catalog of the entire selection of TSR items is available for $2. So you'd write a letter, you'd put a check in there or a money order for $2. You'd send it to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin at that P.O. box. And then a couple of weeks later, you would get a catalog for $2. So, all right, that seems like about it. I've been rambling on now for a half an hour. That is the Steading of the Hill Giant Chief. Here we are. There's the front cover. And that's the review and walkthrough. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch everybody